Hello everyone, this is welcome to how to communicate with your students in Blackboard. If you haven't already, hopefully you've run a sound check, so hopefully you're hearing me at this point. While we're running the session, at any time what you can do is you can go into the panel over on the right hand side of your screen, and on the panel you can go in and put in any questions that you have down in the chat area. So you can go in and type something in here and then go ahead and hit send. Okay. All right, the agenda for today is we're going to talk about the 4 ways to communicate with your students within Blackboard. And I'm going to talk about them and then I'm going to show you how to actually use them. The main feature that's used basically throughout Blackboard is the email feature. And the email feature, basically what it's going to do is it gives you a link within Blackboard to email out to students, but the email actually gets sent out to their T-Wolves email, and it will also send a copy out to your Outlook email. And then when you communicate from those emails that were sent out, students would actually have to go into the T-Wolves and they would respond to the email there, and you would receive the information from them in your Outlook, and then you would respond back to them and it would go back to their T-Wolves. So it's always good idea to point out to them that all the correspondence you're going to be sending through the course is actually going to be going through their T-Wolves account. All right, so one of the things I'm going to show you how to do today is how to add the email feature in Blackboard and how to actually add a module for T-Wolves so that students will actually be able to access their T-Wolves login page right from your course in Blackboard. Okay, another communication feature in Blackboard is the announcements. And when you go to set up an announcement, announcements are public. So when you go to add an announcement, everybody in your course is going to see them. But you do have an option to take that announcement and also send it out immediately to their T-Wolves account. So they'll get it in 2 different places. This is one way to keep the content that you're sharing with your students in the course and send it out to their T-Wolves account. So it's almost like having the course mail in Angel and having that checkbox to send it out to their college email. All right. Another form of communication is to use course messages. And course messages are actually within Blackboard. You and the students have to log into Blackboard to post a message, to read a message, and you really don't get anything outside of Blackboard to let you know that those messages are sitting there waiting for you to go in and actually see if they're there. Okay, so you actually have to go into the course to see them. So it keeps the communications within the course, but to me it's a little bit more cumbersome because then everybody has to go in the course to be able to see them. All right. Another feature is the Retention Center, and if you're going to use the Retention Center, it's a great tool to use, and it's a way for you to flag students that are maybe missing assignments, maybe haven't logged in, things like that, and it's a way to actually take email and have it show up within the course. So that initial email that you sent out to students from the Retention Center does stay in the course. It does go out to the T-Wolves, it does go out to your Outlook, and any communication after that is going to be done outside of Blackboard. Okay. Another way for you to go in and send out a quick message out to your students is through the Grade Center. And again, this is also part of the email feature. Okay. So when they get it, it's going to go out to their T-Wolves. So I can't stress that enough. All right. And one of the things that I put together a diagram to give you a little bit of an idea. If you use the Blackboard email, announcements, Retention Center, and I actually left off the Grade Center, that's all going through the email feature in Blackboard. So that's all going out to the T-Wolves. When students respond to it in the T-Wolves, it goes to your Outlook, and when you respond to it, it goes back to T-Wolves. It never goes back into the course. Okay, if you want everything to be done through the course itself, then you're better off using the course messages. Okay, so that gives you a little bit of an idea of how it's going to work. Now, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my Blackboard screen, and I'm going to go into a course. Okay. Now hopefully at this point you'll be able to see my Blackboard screen up on top. If you can't, can you open up the chat area and type in a chat to let me know that you can't see it? I could also go in and actually turn off my my Blackboard so that I don't have you seeing that right now. Okay, this way I'll guarantee that hopefully I'll see this. Okay, so right now you should be seeing a course in Blackboard. Now, in the course menu, you might have an email feature already there, but if it's not there, to be able to go in and add an email, you're going to go to the plus sign in the upper left-hand corner of the tool and of your course menu, and you're going to go in and you're going to add a tool link. So I would go into tool link, and what I would want to search for is email. And you can name it anything you want. I'm just going to call it send email. Now in the past I have put T-wolves around it to let the students know they need to check their T-wolves to be able to see it. Right now I'm just going to leave it as send email. And I want to go in and tell it to make available to users and then submit that. Alright, so that's available to the instructor and it's also available to students. So if you click on the send email feature, you will have an option to go in and send it to all the users, and it will be all the users within your course. Groups, if you have groups set up, teaching assistants, which we usually don't have on campus, all student users, all instructors, those are the same options that you had to view a set of students in Angel, same idea. You can do single users if you were going to go in and send it out to one user, so I could select that. And I would select just the person that I want to send it to. You get the whole list of students, and I would move it over to the right-hand side. Now, it doesn't look like it's a blind CC, but anytime you send out any email through Blackboard, all the students' lists, their names will be blind CC'd, so nobody else will get to see who that's going to. You would put in a subject line, put in the message that you wanted to send. Now, if you were sending out to multiple people and you want to know exactly who you sent it to, it's a good idea to go in and check this checkbox here to send a copy of the email list with the recipient list in it to you. It will only go to you. It will not go to anybody else. So it's a good idea to turn that on. So when you receive this in Outlook, you'll actually receive two. One that will be an image of what the students will see, and then you'll see another one that will actually show you who it was sent to in a separate email that only goes to you, and then you would submit it. Now this is going to go out to their, like I said, their T-wolves, your Outlook. If you need to keep track of these emails, I would recommend setting up an Outlook folder for that class and then move that folder into, or move those emails into that folder as you collect them from your students, from yourself, things like that. So you would just submit that and send it out to your students. Okay, so that's how you can go in and quickly do an email. Now, like I said, a couple of other places where you can do emails is also in the Grade Center. So if I were to go into my Grade Center and go to any component in here and go to, I'm going to go to Full Grade Center. And you'll see a list of students in there. Now at this point I don't have any students in this one because I'm just using a test course. So what you could do is you could select the students by turning the check boxes in front of their names here, and then you would just go into email and do email selected users. And again, right now I don't have any selected users in there, but it would be the same feature. You'd put in the subject line, you'd put in the information you wanted, and if you wanted to do the checkbox to show who the recipients were, you can set that up as well. So that's another place where you could actually go in and send an email out to students. All right. Now the other main option for communicating with your students is those course messages. Now more than likely you already have a message center link in your menu on the left hand side. What I would recommend is that you rename that, and I would go into the chevron, which is the drop arrow to the right of it. Now your edit mode has to be on to be able to do that, and I would go into rename link and I would call it course messages instead. Okay. And when you do course messages, the course messages is kind of like what you had in Angel, just to communicate with your students. So if I go into the course messages and go into my inbox, okay, I can see if there's any messages that have been sent to me from students. And again, this is totally within the course, and you have to go to the course to read your messages. The students have to do the same thing. If they're going to respond, they're responding from within the course messages within the course. So I would just do create a message if I want to send something out to my students. I would do a to. Now in this case it does show that there's an option of blind see, so you could go in and set that up and not have the group of students see who it's being sent to. And I would just select who I wanted it to go to, put in a subject line, my correspondence, and you can do a file attachment and then submit it. And that will stay within the course. I'm just going to do one real quick. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and submit that. All right, so now I'm in my inbox. I can actually see that there's a message from me, and I could click on this link here to open up that message to actually see what was said in that message. In this case, I didn't put much in there. Okay, and if it were a student or you were replying to a student, you can reply, you could forward it or delete it. Okay, so the students, when they go into the course messages, just like you, they're going to have an inbox, they're going to have a sent box. They'll know if they have any unread messages in there, but they have to go into the course to be able to see them. Okay, now another area, like we said, was the announcements. The announcements will actually send out an email to students. This is a great way to communicate with your students, have the information stay within the course, and also go out to their T-Wolf's email. So if I go into course messages and I create, course announcements, if I go in to create an announcement, okay, I could put in the subject line of what I want them to see, the text. I can go in and set up whether I want a restricted date or not. Okay. If you leave it as a restricted date, you can only do a display until option if you want to send out an email immediately. Now, if you don't check this box to send out a copy of the announcement immediately, it's almost like a reminder. The students will get this within 24 to 48 hours as an email outside of the course. So it will go in as an announcement right away, but then it will have kind of a time delay for the announcement to go out to their T-Wolves. So again, I would, if I want them to see it right away, I could say that I want it to stay on the announcements until next Friday, and I'm going to tell it to send a copy right away. I can add a file if I want to, and then I would submit it to add it. And this would display within the course, so it's staying in the course. It's public, so everybody's going to see it, and then it's also going to send it out to all the students' T-Wolves and your Outlook account as a reminder as well. Okay, so that's another way that you can go in and do, communication is going to stay in the course and go outside the course as well. But if the students respond to it from their T-Wolves, it's going to be outside the course in your Outlook, and when you respond, it's going to, from your Outlook, it's going to go back to your T-Wolves. Okay. All right. Now, another area where you can communicate, and we talked about this, is being able to go in through the retention center. So back over in your control panel on the left-hand side of your course, you can go under the evaluation area and go into retention center. Now the retention center has a lot more features to it other than just being able to communicate with your students. So it's kind of important to become familiar with the retention center and how it works. Now I'm actually going to switch a course because I did have another course that I've done a couple of announcements through. So let me switch. Then I'm going to go back into my retention center. Now the retention center will let you know if they already have 4 rules already set up, and a couple of the things that it's checking for is late, missing deadlines if you have due dates on things, and if you have signed in. Okay, they can go in and they can you can go in and do a search on those students. So the area at the top of the retention center is actually going to show you different areas where students are lacking. And in this case, I have 2 areas. I have 2 students that have missed deadlines, and then I also have 2 students that have not logged in, which would be the only 2 students in the course. So if I'm looking at this retention center and I want to communicate with them that they've missed a deadline, I can go into this bar here and click on it and actually do a notify and students. Okay, now if you did have somebody that was observing a student, you could also send an email out to them as well. Now this notification is an email, so it's going to go out of the course and go out to their T-Wolves. So I'm going to tell it to notify the students that have missing deadlines. It's going to automatically do it as a blind CC, even though it doesn't say that. It is a blind CC. It will give me an option to add more people if I wanted to. Maybe there you have an advisor that I want to let know that there's some problems going on here. It's going to automatically populate the subject line that they have missed deadlines, and it's automatically going to populate the message. So I can go in and update this message and put out more information. Maybe I want them to contact me, things like that. Now, it's always a good idea in this case, since it's probably going out to more than 1 student, to include a list of recipients with a copy sent to you. So I would turn this feature on and then go ahead and submit this particular message. So it didn't take a lot for me to go in. I just had to go in and look to see who was missing stuff. Now, the first message that goes out will show up in Blackboard, and it will stay in Blackboard. So right now I know that I've sent a message out to both of these students. So if I go into, in my case, my test student, I can actually see any messages that I have sent out to that test student. Okay, it also is giving me information specifically about that person. I can see that they have missed 1 deadline. Okay, I can actually go in and see when the messages were sent originally, and then over on the right here I can actually see the message that I sent out to that student. So this is one way to keep the crucial messages that you're sending out to students, especially students that might be lacking or having some problems. And I want to go in and send out messages to them and still be able to keep track of it within Blackboard. Now, once it goes out, when they respond to it, they're going to see it in their T-Wolves. That's where they would respond to it. It's going to go to their Outlook, your Outlook, you respond to that. So you're actually going to be going back and forth between Outlook and T-Wolves. You might decide that if it's something that you really want to document and keep it within the course, you might decide to keep going back to the retention center and communicate with them through the retention center instead. Okay, this way it will keep track of all those original submissions. Okay, so that is one of your other ways to go in and set this up. Now, there is another form of public communication that I did not include in that list of ideas. Another thing that you could actually do is, if you know that your students need to be able to communicate with each other but in a more public form, you can set up a discussion and then link to that discussion over in your menu on the left-hand side. So we actually recommend, especially for our online and hybrid, that you actually have a link to an Ask the Question area discussion in your menu on the left-hand side. So that way students can go in and publicly ask the whole class questions and actually answer each other questions, so that way they're not waiting for the professor to answer those questions. Now, if you wanted to add that to your course, what you would first want to do is add a discussion. So you would go into your discussions link on the left-hand side, and you would create a form. And I would go in and just, you could ask the class, let's say that's what I want it to be. Okay. And I would want to make it available to users, so I'd want to make sure that that was on. There's no grading involved in this, so I would make sure no grading. And basically, I would just go down and submit this. Okay. Then what you want to do is add it to the menu on the left-hand side. So I go back up to my plus sign. And this time you're actually adding a course link. It's actually course content that you're linking to. So I would do course link. I would browse my course, and discussions are going to be near the bottom of your course menu. So I'm going to scroll down the bottom until I can find that discussion for Ask the Class. So I would click on that, make it available to my students. I can put whatever name I want in here and submit that. And this becomes a public forum where students can ask each other questions as they're working on your course content. So that's a great one if you think that they can actually answer each other questions faster than what you could. So that's another way to do it. Okay, so let me jump back to my PowerPoint for a second here. Okay, so again, if you look at this diagram, if you use the email feature, the announcements feature, the retention center, and even the grade center, all that information goes out to their T-Wolves account, and any communication from T-Wolves to Outlook is going to be outside the course. If you don't want to allow them to have any communication outside of the course, then you would want to add the course messages to your menu and tell them strictly that that's how you're going to communicate through those course messages, and they need to go in and check those on a regular basis. Okay, now okay, so at this point, if you have any questions, I know at this point I only have Audrey Agnello on the call. If Audrey wants to unmute herself or ask any questions, she can. You can go into the chat and type in a question if you don't want to ask it through the microphone. I've got contact information up here for myself and our two people that we currently have in our e-learning student support center at this point. And if your students need help with Blackboard, you can send them up to D409 in the 4th floor of the library to get help. Okay. Now, Audrey is saying that she's having some problem with her mic. Audrey, it has something to do with you being muted on your end. I do not have you muted, so I don't know if you have a button on your microphone that you can unmute yourself or not. Let me see here. So right now I've got you muted, and then I can unmute you. So, see if you can talk. I know at some point when you were getting ready, I could hear your microphone going in and out. I don't know if maybe it's not hooked up right or not. If you have a question, you can type it into the chat area just like you did, and I could answer your question that way as well, and I could show it to you on the screen. Okay. So at this point, for those of you that are watching the recording, don't hesitate to email me with questions. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and then that way Audrey can ask her questions if she needs to. And anybody that has any questions, they can email me, and we'll go from there.